Welcome to Michelle Vandepass's Purpose and Profit, where Michelle asks deep and challenging questions about how to live large, shine brighter, and explore our personal edges. Go with her into an exploration of where we are headed with purpose and profit, individually and also as a human race. And now here's your host, my friend, Michelle Vandepass.
Hi and welcome. I'm Michelle Vandepass, and today I am interviewing the author of the first in a series of books called The Realm. This one is Claim Your Total Magnificence. Gina Grant's the author. This is a fabulous book. It is full of exercises and clear steps on how you can become who you are meant to be and more of who you're meant to be. Welcome to the show, and here's Gina and my interview with her. Hi and welcome. I'm Michelle Vandepass, and today I am interviewing the author of the first in a series of books called The Realm. This one is Claim Your Total Magnificence. Gina Grant's the author. This is a fabulous book. It is full of exercises and clear steps on how you can become who you are meant to be and more of who you're meant to be. Welcome to the show, and here's Gina and my interview with her. Welcome, Gina. I'm so glad you are able to join me today. Now, the name of the book is The Realm. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Realm, Claim Your Total Magnificence. I want to start with magnificence. It's such a great word, but what do you mean by it?
I think for me, what I mean by that is the design of us, I guess. Well, you know, magnificence by definition is something that's wonderful and beautiful and perfect and glorious, right? So, and what I'm connecting that with us is the design of us and who we are, who we were born to be. It's something that we don't have to try to be. So when I'm talking about claiming your total magnificence, that's about, you know, looking at the things that other people might tell us is, you know, the way we're supposed to be, or the way we compare ourselves to others, or the excellence and magnificence that we see in other people, and realizing that we don't have to try to fit ourselves into a mold to express our own magnificence. We don't have to go out there and get it. We don't have to do anything to find it. It's already within us. It's part of the design of us. We have a choice about how we declare what our actions mean, what our choices mean, what our experiences mean. We get to decide what they mean, what the value of them is. And so when we can look at ourselves and look at everything in our lives that we do, the ways that we grow, the things that we're attracted to, the interactions we have, and when we could see the magnificence in them, then we're really aligning with the truth about us.
So it's interesting because you mentioned experiences in there, and I know you talk about a few very personal experiences in the book yourself. We all have baggage. We all have heartbreak. We all have sickness and people dying and all kinds of things that happen to us in our lives. But you're suggesting we can reframe that and choose how we experience it. Can you give us an example? And if you feel comfortable, share one of the examples in your book, like with your sister or one of the others.
Sure. You know, just on a more general note, before I get into a personal example, you know, you're exactly right. I am talking about reframing. I am talking about how we interpret our experiences. And a lot of times we put a lot of burden or responsibility on ourselves that doesn't really belong there. And we make ourselves into, you know, villains. I talk a lot about victims and villains in the book, and we can make ourselves into villains for things when we really were doing everything that we were doing with good intentions. And when we can tap into that and see it that way, maybe it didn't go the way we wanted it to, but ultimately it's the intention where we can own our responsibility. And our intention is always coming from a good place, always coming ultimately from a place of wanting to be loved and wanting to be connecting with someone at the level of our truth, which is that we are magnificent. So whenever we're connecting with anyone and whenever we're doing anything in our lives, we are trying to express and feel the truth that we know is true about us, which is that we are magnificent. So the situation that I spoke of in the book about my sister is very personal. That is a situation where when I was growing up, she was a bully. I mean, she was, menacing, and she hit me a lot, and I was a very timid, kid. And I ended up crying a lot, going to my parents a lot to try to ask them to help me, make her stop hurting me or stop doing things. And they weren't really equipped to help with that. They didn't know how to change that situation. And, in retrospect, I don't write about this in the book, but in retrospect, like with the tools and things that I've learned in my journey and what I put in my book, I could actually go back and reparent her, and we would have a different outcome just using the techniques in the chapter that I talked about her in. But so ultimately, I just felt like she was, and a lot of it was that, in our family, she was the scapegoat. She was the kid that everybody blamed things on. She was the bad kid. She was loud and whatever. And what I ultimately came to was after going to my first year of college and learning some things about psychology and about scapegoats in particular, I realized that she was not a bad kid. She was not a bad person. She was just a person who was trying to get love in the ways that she could figure out. And so I guess one of the most challenging concepts in the book to understand, and I can illustrate this with her, is that when we do something to harm someone else, it's because we see them as having more power than us. And we don't like that feeling because really it's not true. I mean, the truth is that we're all equally magnificent. So when we're perceiving someone else as having more power than us, sometimes we want to rectify and bring us to, an equal level where we can see eye to eye by harming them. Because if I feel like I'm down here and I am looking up at them and they're up here, if I harm them, I think, okay, they can come down to here and we could see eye to eye, and then we can connect again. And then we can feel the loving that is the truth for all people. So my sister, what she was doing was living in this place of being bad and a bad kid. And so her attempts to hurt me every time she would hit me or, accuse me of things was always an attempt to bring me down so that we could connect and have love between us again. And the thing is, it doesn't work. Okay, so that's the thing. When we try to harm others to bring them down, it doesn't work because ultimately we never get what we want from that. First of all, we don't want to stay down here. Or if this is her, she doesn't want to stay down here. Or I don't know who was where, but anyway, we don't want to stay down there. And also, we don't want to see the people we love down there either. We don't want to have to be equals as victims. We want to be equals as magnificent. So the goal is to try to help to restore our sense of the magnificence of both people. And so, what happened ultimately with my sister after learning about the scapegoat stuff in college and kind of seeing how that came about, I went home one weekend and I was sitting talking to her and I was telling her about it because it was the first time I could really validate her and validate that there was goodness in her and that she wasn't bad. And when I did that, she told me that she had tried to commit suicide twice in our teen years. And that was a time where she was tormenting me and I was crying a lot. And when she told me that, it was just like, I can't express, I just broke into sobs. I remember the times during our teen years when it happened because she had sort of a physical expression of one of those attempts that I was told another story about. And so it was just, I mean, my love for her, like all the walls around that just crumbled, and I really got it. I really got it, that all of the harm, all of the things that she was trying to do to hurt me was coming out of such a greater level of pain and suffering within her, that all I could do was love her and have compassion for her. I couldn't feel like a victim to her anymore. I couldn't make her the bad guy anymore. That was what had brought her to that point in the first place.
So I have to ask you a question, because it sounds like you individually did quite a lot of personal healing having this conversation. Does it actually change your life, though? Were you able to see yourself in a different way after going through that experience with your sister?
I'm not sure that I was able to do that immediately. I mean, there are so many levels of complexity to it too. I mean, being a twin, and there's a lot of dynamics involved with ego and twins and stuff. And for me, being the good kid, there's a lot that goes into that that's not always healthy either. You know, like a lot of expectations of being perfect and stuff like that. But I think over time, what happened was, I mean, it's just like such a complex weaving of things. And in the book, I do talk about how later I did start, you know, after a lot of spiritual and personal work, I started this process of trying to stop judging myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just trying to allow myself to be how I am. Because like I said, as the good kid, you know, there's a lot of perfectionism that I put on myself and that I felt coming from outside, which probably wasn't. And so a lot of judgment, because I had all these high standards I was trying to live up to. So when I stopped trying to judge myself, or when I tried to stop judging myself and did like make more room for myself, I started to make it like automatically, magically made room for everyone else. And
yeah. That's the piece I think that's so powerful, is when you were able to go in and see your own magnificence, as you talked about at the beginning, where you're not taking on other people's expectations. You were able to really come into your own around it. That's what feels powerful to me.
Yeah, and yes, I think, you know, it's okay. So one complex thing that I talk about in the book too, and I try to make it very simple, is this mirror effect, how we really reflect to each other. You know, what we see when we look at someone else is a reflection of something about us. And so, you know, it's hard to say. It's like the chicken or the egg question, which came first. Was it me judging my sister less and other people less that allowed me to judge myself less? Or was it me working on judging myself less that allowed me to stop judging other people so much? So it's, you know, either way, whichever angle or aspect you want to work at it from, it's all going to sort of expand and magnify for yourself and others, because ultimately when we are connecting with someone else, when we're looking at someone else, it's always a reflection of ourselves. So
yeah, I love that. That's a powerful piece that you share in your book and that you've just shared now. And it's easy to forget that when we're in the moment of anger or disappointment or frustration or sadness, whatever it might be, and we're blaming or judging others.
Yeah, and so that particular chapter that you're talking about, it's called The Dungeon. And what I talk about in that chapter is about not ever needing to have a dungeon. You know, that in storytelling we have that for a reason, but in our lives we don't ever want to put anybody in the dungeon, because when we do, we put ourselves in the dungeon, and we never want to be there.
Yeah, so you've got some amazing chapters in this book, but one of the things I love about it is you give us tools to like get out of the dungeon, right? You give us
exactly
specific worksheets and tools and ideas to get out. How did you come up with these?
They are processes that I used for myself for, you know, over the years. Some of them grew over time. Some of them kind of came as I was writing, because I guess one of the gifts that I have in particular, I write curriculum, I do academic teaching, I do spiritual teaching, and one of the gifts that I have is I'm really able to break down the metacognition of a process. So what that means is I'm able to break down like each step of thinking that brings you to a result. And so you'll see that in the activities in my book, and in particular with the dungeon chapter, I think it's one of the most powerful tools you could get. If you just read that one chapter of my book, it would change your life. And, in a previous version of this book, I had an exercise for that was, it was useful, but it was a little harder to use. So this time around, I made a very simple process that I think I'm just so excited about it because I was able to use it, step by step. My fiance walked me through the steps of it recently for something I was working through. And it was just amazing. Like I had a huge breakthrough just from doing that one time with one thing that seemed really insignificant. So
I think that's an important thing that you just said there. And I want to go back to it. It's not like you do this one time and you're healed. You had an issue you were working through then, and so you went back to this exercise and worked through it, and it helped you with this issue. So this is a book you can come back to time and time again and work through if you have something going on in your life. And who doesn't, right? We all do all the time.
Yeah, I definitely see the book as a resource where it's not something you just read once and put away. It's, every time you feel like a victim or you feel, angry at someone else for whatever it is that they did, you can go back to that chapter and work through that process very quickly for every situation. And then once you do it several times, you can pick it up and you'll be doing it automatically and it'll become a part of the way that you're thinking.
Now you use metaphors like the dungeon, and the title of your book is The Realm. So we have these, and majesty, I think, is in there somewhere. We have these very royal themes. Tell me why you chose those metaphors to write your book in.
That is a really good question. I mean, it definitely started with the Queen. Oh, I do remember. Okay, what happened was, I'll just go back a little. So, I love guided meditations, and I remember the very first time I did a guided meditation was actually in a time when I was still kind of living in a level of not believing in anything spiritual. But I did this guided meditation. I was so amazed because it was like you walk over here and then you turn left and you turn right, and that thing that you see right there, that's going to be a symbol of your soul or whatever. And I was like, and what I saw was like this silver tiger with these huge fangs, and I was like, How do you know? How did you know that was going to be a symbol of your soul? How did they do that? How did they make that guided meditation? I was like, so, before I wrote The Realm, and as I sort of have always been working to kind of become a fuller expression of my magnificence, I remember, wanting to feel more confident and wanting to feel more good about myself. And so I went into a meditation with a little bit of an intention, and the meditation happened to me. Like it just came to me where I was in a throne room and I was a queen, and like there's, in chapter 4, the queen or the king, depending on how you identify, there's this meditation that actually just channeled through to me, and I went through it myself before I ever even wrote it down. And so like it had me look at 4 different places, and in each of those 4 places, I saw a symbol of something that was significant for the meaning of that meditation. So it came from that. It came from me being a queen in this meditation, and everything, the whole motif, the royalty motif, emerged out of that.
Nice.
So it's something I love. It's one of my spiritual gifts and one of my intellectual gifts. So it's just super fun for me to put it all into like a motif of royalty.
Yeah, nice. So I want to talk about the series for a minute, and then we're going to move to your website and how people can find out more about you. But on Amazon, it says that it's like volume 1. So tell me what's next.
Okay, so what's next? What's next is it's called The Realm of True Love. Embrace your divine partnership. So the realm, before the realm came along, divine partnership came along. And again, this was another like a vision that came to me in a meditation. This vision came to me that it gave itself a name. It was called divine partnership. It was in a time when I was almost in the middle of a breakup with someone, and I was very, uncomfortable and sad about it. And so I went in and I did a meditation, and I had this amazing vision of divine partnership, this amazing vision of what for me would be the truth about my partnership. It would be two people who are really fully embracing their magnificence and really fully supporting each other in doing that. And it's a simple vision, really, but the sensation of it was so powerful and felt so true to me that, I wrote it down, and it became a book. So The Realm, before it became the version that, we're talking about now, it was another book, and it had two parts to it. It had the stuff about your dream life and about your internal storytelling that we've been talking about. And then it also had stuff about romantic partnership in it. And so, what came to me, I've been called for the last year or so to turn that into two books, because I had more to say about both things. Mm-hmm. And truly, not everybody who is called to life in the realm will be called to divine partnership. Divine partnership, as I talk about it, isn't the truth about partnership for everyone. But it is, it is the calling. It's that soulmate calling. It's that true love that lasts a lifetime calling. It's that, ideal partnership. That's what divine partnership is. And I fully acknowledge that there are people out there who aren't designed to do monogamous partnership in that way.
Mm-hmm. And are there more books?
Yes. After book 2 about divine partnership, there is... it's The Realm of Soul Magic. Sorry, we worked out these perfect titles, so just give me a second.
No, that's okay. They don't have to be perfect titles. I'm just interested because it sounds like there are books coming. And what's interesting to me about this is because you're a screenwriter and you write curriculum, you're obviously a writer at your soul yourself.
Absolutely.
That's how you share. So I can imagine, 10 books maybe coming from you.
Yeah, I definitely have 4 books in the works. The third one is about magical spiritual stuff. It does involve spiritual communication with spirit guides and psychic gifts and stuff like that. It involves, how to understand and receive signs and how to, create a world or a life where you're seeing signs and being, receiving spiritual guidance and communication in a really kind of dazzling way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you said there's one more book, or is that?
Yeah. The fourth book is about, it's about financial consciousness. It's about, really connecting with the truth about your, money, having sort of that treasury, the abundance thing. I know it's a huge topic for many people, including myself. So that will be the fourth book.
Nice. So the third book, actually, when you talk about connecting with signs and other magical spiritual realms, takes me to your website and your blog, because you just blogged about seeing signs. And I read somewhere that you see signs even in license plates, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So let me tell everyone before I forget that your website is soulcandyinstitute.com. I wanted to make sure I said it live correctly. soulcandyinstitute.com. You have a blog up there. Tell me about seeing signs and how you see signs in license plates.
Well, license plates are funny because I always want to share the amazing things that happen with license plates, but I never do because it's like that's somebody's identification number, and I don't want to, I want to honor their privacy. But I guess what happens for me with license plates is I'm driving a lot, and so when I'm driving, I might be thinking about something, or I have a question about something, and all of a sudden I'll look over and see a license plate, and it will be like my lucky numbers and then the initials of like something that was the answer to my question, or it'll be my initials, and I don't know, it's just.
And you see these as signs. You don't see them as random numbers and initials. You actually see them as signs, which takes me back to your website, because you teach this. You teach how to see, I guess, how to be directed in your life every day, and intuition and psychic gifts. So tell me what you teach when you're not writing curriculum and writing books.
Well, let's see. So with the psychic stuff, sorry, I was like going to answer one thing and then another thing. So let me go.
So you have Mystery School. So on your website it says there's Mystery School. Tell me about Mystery School.
Okay, so the Mystery School is for light workers. It's for people who have psychic gifts and sensitivity. I think, in particular, well, I guess I attract a lot of people who are empaths, because I'm an empath, and what that means is I basically like feel other people's feelings, and I can take a lot of their energy onto me. And so one of the things I teach is how to not take other people's energy into your body, and not to take other people's energy sort of into your energetic space, because it's not that there's anything wrong with other people's energy, it's just not yours. And so it can be confusing, it can feel heavy. And so like if you're a person who, feels overwhelmed in crowds, if like when you go to certain, shopping places or other kinds of places and you just feel, uncomfortable, that is most likely because you are empathic and you are picking up other people's energies, and it's too much. It's like sensory overwhelm. And so there are techniques that you can use to organize that energy so that it's not coming into your body. And then, as you practice and you learn more things, you can start to understand, by using intention and techniques, you can understand what these energetic feelings mean. So that's on the level of like empath and energy, but then there's also the level of mediumship, where you're receiving information from spirit guides, and there's a whole process that you can do to get information that way. And so that might come to you as like signs, like visual imagery. You might hear a voice telling you something, or a sound like a phone ringing that's not really happening. Things like that can be messages. And so I think the most exciting things that I teach is how to understand your own personal symbol system. I think, part of, understanding your psychic gifts and understanding the information that's coming to you has to do with you creating sort of like a dictionary of what all your symbols mean.
Oh.
If you see like a certain flower or something, and it connects to your life in some way, it might have a different meaning for you than anyone else. And so part of the process of doing psychic readings and connecting with spirit guides to bring messages for other people involves understanding your symbol system.
Love that. The website is soulcandyinstitute.com. People can find you there. I think there's a contact us and about us page. You're also on Facebook as Soul Candy Institute. The book is called The Realm, Claim Your Total Magnificence by Gina Grant. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Michelle. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.